Alright, well, let's do this. As more or less expected, well, we got our asses handed to us, 34-9. And, it was pretty much, it went out with a whimper. Even around the YouTube trash talking circle, it seems like a lot of people didn't even think about this game too much, even the Cowboys fans, and, I hate that it's come to that. I hate that, but that's where we are now. And it was just kind of business as usual for them, and for us, well, a rough season continues along, and 4 more games left, and hopefully next season things can be better. Season after, I don't know, but things yesterday pretty much went down as most people expected, as I more or less expected. Looking at the game in more detail, things I liked, there weren't too many of them, but we were actually passing the ball pretty well. Matt probably had I would say his best game of the season so far. He hasn't played well this year, but he was able to find open guys. He was able to get the ball downfield. I actually saw a lot of good things when we went back to pass it. He had almost 300 yards. He completed 22 of 38. But every time we got something going, we started to get something going. It was like, there would be a sack or a penalty or a negative play or, something like that. They obviously got 7 sacks against us, which was a real killer. They were getting sacks whenever they needed to. You had DeMarcus Ware, Brady James, Tank Johnson, Greg Ellis, everybody getting involved, and it got pretty bad. Yeah. And, obviously we couldn't sustain any momentum. We couldn't get into the end zone. We were settling for field goals. Julius had a couple fumbles. He didn't play well. I mean, he talked most of this season about how he was excited to play against his former team, and, so much for that, right? He was pretty much useless. He couldn't do anything. We couldn't run the ball with anybody. It's really not his fault, but we couldn't run the ball with anybody. We did have some receivers step up. Carlson had a 100-yard game. Carlson was big. Carlson was great for us. Branch played pretty well. Robinson had a couple big catches. He had a big drop too, but he had a couple of nice plays. So I do feel that we had some players step up for us offensively, just not for an extended period of time. Enough for us to get into the end zone. Enough for us to make it a game. Like I said, that we had momentum killing sacks, we had negative plays, we had penalties, all that. Everything you could think of. And of course we had the 2 big turnovers. We were driving at the start of at the start of the game we were actually driving, and then Julius fumbles and suddenly we're down 14-0, and well, the interception was pretty much a Hail Mary when the game was more or less over, but it was still a turnover. Other side, defense, I was embarrassed for about the first half of the game. We were letting Dallas go up and down the field. I think they got 3 touchdowns the first 3 times they got the ball. There was somebody open every play. Witten, Owens, Bennett caught that touchdown, obviously. Roy Williams had a couple of catches. He didn't really have a big game, but he did a couple of nice things. Romo had the big day. We stopped the run, as I thought we would. We've been stopping the run well most of the year. We did a pretty good job there, but that's really about the only good thing I can say here on the whole. Because early in the game, they were just passing up and down the field on us like nobody's business. Now, right before the half, our defense did clamp down. We started getting a lot of pressure on Romo. We were getting no pressure on Romo early in the game. And later in the game, in the second half, late in the first half, we started getting pressure, started forcing some incompletions. True Font had the interception in the end zone, which was nice because he hasn't had any interceptions this year. That was nice. And, we were definitely playing better. We were forcing punts, getting the ball back to our offense. I can't complain there. It's just our offense could not do anything with it. So eventually, of course, Dallas did drive down and get the final touchdown of the game. I think to Owens that pretty much wrapped it up and kicked a field goal to put the icing on the cake. And, of course, our defense played well for several drives near the middle of the game, but if you're not doing anything with it, they're going to get tired, they're going to lose heart. Eventually, at some level, they're going to be thinking, well, what's the point? So, we could have just laid down and lost by 40 points, but we didn't let that happen. Other than that, I can't really think of too many good things to say here. Walter Jones had a bad game. He allowed a couple sacks to DeMarcus Ware. He's actually had a very good season. Walter Jones, that is, but he was off today. Again, the secondary always leaving somebody open. Witten, Owens, one of those two usually. They had some big plays. Roy Williams had the one big play. I don't know what else there is to say. That's about it. It was just a pretty ugly game. We calmed down a little bit in the middle, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I'll just say that it's not surprising. This has just been a rough season, and it's not going to get any easier. So there you go. Okay, moving on real quick. Let's look at the Cardinals-Eagles game real quick. I kind of thought that Arizona, traveling all the way out to Philadelphia, would probably not be able to play up to their usual level. And that's pretty much what happened. They had 4 turnovers. Warner was making some very poor decisions. Anquan Bolden had a very rough night. He was dropping passes and fumbling it. Bolden had a very bad game. Let's see. Obviously, Arizona can't run the ball, but we knew that. We've known for a while that they can't run the ball. This is not a surprise. Defensively, they looked completely unprepared. They were letting Brian Westbrook run all over them and McNabb throw all over them at the same time. It's like their game plan wasn't really geared towards stopping any element of the Eagles offense. McNabb had a sick game, 260 yards and 4 touchdowns. Westbrook had, 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Deshaun Jackson had 6 catches and a touchdown. Kevin Curtis, Hank Baskett, everybody was playing well. Just a banner day for the Eagles offense. They just dominated all the way around. And I don't know what it is. You go out to the East Coast, you're on a short week, you've only had 4 days rest. You try and game plan for a pretty, in my opinion, underrated team that if you sleep on them, they will probably do something like that to you. They're not as bad as their record suggests. And it just looked like they were completely unprepared. They didn't game plan. If you looked at some of their defensive sets they used, it just didn't make a lot of sense. They'll probably clinch the division this weekend with the 49ers playing Buffalo, I think it is. But it kind of shows that this team on the road in the postseason against a quality team probably is not going to be able to get it done. They've already lost to Carolina, New York, Philadelphia. These are the kind of teams they're going to have to play in the postseason, and they're not getting it done against those teams. Except for the Dallas game, but that game was at home. If they draw Dallas at home in the postseason, okay, they have some confidence there because they already beat them, but at some point they're going to have to win on the road. They're not taking the number 1 seed. So, it's a concern, but big win for Philadelphia. They're still in this. Just barely, but they're still in this. They just have to try and win 3 of their last 4, and they wouldn't be in too bad of a position. Alright, moving on to Sunday. Let's see.